I chose to follow my own brief about food wastage on an individual level in young European households. The field of food technology interests me, and this is a user group I have access to. I wanted to try and answer how can we help modern European households waste less food? I started with user interviews, where possible in their kitchen to understand my user in context and their behavior around food decisions. In general, my user wants to eat and not throw out their food, especially as there was a sustainability focus running through everyone I interviewed. So, why is food thrown out? Well, certain situations cropped up frequently that meant binning food, especially around losing sight of food, not knowing what to do with certain ingredients, and being caught out when traveling. This led me to Paula. I want to highlight her needs and behaviors, especially with regards to eating food before it spoils and not knowing what to do with ingredients she doesn't usually have at home. Paula has two main problems. She needs better visibility of her food, and she needs to know what to do with random ingredients. I chose to focus on the second problem because it looked funner to solve and also like it fell into a digital realm more easily. Knowing my user, I then had a look what else was out there for her. These apps are a mix between pantry item managers and recipe suggesters. Out of all of them, Frigo Magique felt like it got closest to answering my problem statement. When it came to using the apps, Kitch and No Waste are vaster apps that do lots of things, whilst Frigidly and Frigo Magique are more focused. This gave them a better experience. A frustration across most of the apps was that they had a photo feature for inputting food. A great idea, but then it didn't actually work when I tested it. They also all required an account, which, apart from Kitch that tracked how much money you saved every week, did not seem to have any relevance to the app experience. I hate having to create accounts for no reason, so I decided at this point to include a guest experience in my creation. Taking all this and going through a design studio left me with the basic concept I wanted to validate. A recipe suggester that with different ingredient input options, and then it gives you recipes with your ingredient or where it can swap out another in another recipe. There will be a guest and an account experience with the same crux of functionality, but the account experience would be more personalized. I created these basic sketches that were validated by users, and at this point it's worth mentioning that I wanted to include some gamification around displaying how much energy you had saved by not throwing out food. This is an easy way to tie back into my persona sustainability motivation. It was time for iteration 1. This build focused on functionality and getting something in front of users quickly. I therefore built the guest experience as it has few features but all the important parts of the product. I learned a new software, Protopie, because it allows for the prototype to use the phone's native camera, a central part of the ingredient input search, and I built for a mobile experience as none of my users displayed using their computers in the kitchen, but they did all have their phones. There were bugs. Onboarding had issues. Users tried to start adding ingredients during the onboarding, didn't understand the app, or got misled by the copy and the instructions. Using the search parameters backfired, most users didn't notice and therefore didn't interact with the camera functionality, and a few users wanted to add in more pantry ingredients than what they saw listed. And then when looking at the results, users were frustrated that not all the search parameters were respected. There was also some copy consistency issues with the tone in general. The swap page in particular was a disaster, as users got confused with the direction of the arrow, thinking that their pumpkin had to transform into a new ingredient. But they did like the idea once they understood it. On a positive side, the reaction to the app was really good, and a few users saying they wanted to use it. Also, as expected, no one had an issue with using their phone. Iteration 2 was a big change. I wanted to have the ethos of saving energy running through the design. This led to this color palette, which on an OLED screen that are becoming the standard uses less energy to display. I also discovered that using system fonts uses less energy on the user's device, so I chose a system font for the body text. I did splurge on Jellica as my title font, but just using the system font made the app look unfinished. Lastly, I settled on the name Morenosh for my product, which fit into the friendly vibe I was going for in general. It's worth mentioning that I created every UI element apart from the recipe photos and the fonts, and the copy is all mine apart from the recipes. To keep the prototype build manageable, I focused on recipes surrounding just one ingredient, 2 additional diets, and keeping recipes short and simple. A good user experience would come from a good search experience as much as good content. I also ran a card sort to understand what people had in their pantries. Once I knew, I realized I could just suggest recipes that used mostly pantry ingredients without having to ask the user for the information. I also bookmarked the idea of the account experience allowing the user to define what they had at home exactly to get tailored recipe suggestions. I made sure to have more pervasive onboarding throughout the app to help users, and I built in the gamification to see how it would land. It plays once a recipe has been marked as complete as a kind of reward. A lot of care went into the wording and numbers displayed as I wanted this to be a real experience. I worried it was too wordy, but I wanted to see how it fared in the test. This time it went better but still had issues. The visual design, the ability to photograph the ingredient, and the time division of recipes as well as their difficulty level all went over well with the users. However, the swap page, the recipe divider on the results page, and the copy had trouble. The swap page went unnoticed, though it was loved when spotted. The recipe divider, when noticed, was totally misunderstood, and the order of the display of the recipes in general caused a lot of confusion. And the sentences were too complicated, both during the onboarding and the results. These need to be simplified. The recipe previews on the results page also confused a few users with the information not always matching up exactly with what was then displayed in the recipe, and the extra ingredients required sometimes being too precise or else too vague. The energy sparing information and the search experience got some mixed feedback. Everyone loved seeing the energy saving information, but most people also didn't want to be forced to go through it every single time, or at least not the exact same information. And with the search experience, most people expected the results to change as soon as they interacted with the filter, and it took a while before they thought to press search again at the top. The lack of error messaging definitely kept users confused. Iteration 3 would improve upon the experience with key areas of focus being visual understanding, functionality, background research, and content. The prototype focused on the guest experience, but if logged into an account, the app would be a more personalized experience with features such as influencing the community ranking of recipes, favoriting recipes, being able to tell the app exactly what you have at home so you can get tailored recipe suggestions, knowing your individual cumulative total of energy so far, integrating with your calendar so that the app suggests recipes ahead of traveling to avoid food being spoiled, and even once more research has been done into the IoT possibilities, connecting to a smart fridge. Wireflows for these considerations and where the guest experience would entice user to create an account are on the mirror board linked in the PDF. In conclusion, everything about this project was new experience for me, which meant I made a lot of mistakes. Prototyping a search experience requires a vaster database than I had time to build so far, and as I didn't want to compromise on the photo functionality, I also had to spend time learning new software. These constraints meant I did not get as far in the iterative process as I would have liked. However, I kept the user and the UX specs processes by my side throughout, and this is the best that I could do in the time. I plan to build one more version based on these learnings before integrating this project into my UX portfolio. Thank you very much.